Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. It is me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and we're back this week for the final look at the 1986 Battle Action Force Annual. I hope you've enjoyed these last few weeks as we've combed through this, looking at all the G.I. Joe content. Today, we are covering Snake Hunt, the Snake Eyes, I put that in quotes, solo story. It's a lot of fun. It's different. It's different than the Snake Eyes I know, but it's great. Just like we've talked before, this is like looking in an alternate universe of these characters that I think we all know pretty well. So it's really refreshing in that regard. I've really loved the feedback I've gotten from you, gang. Newcomers, if you're new to the show, welcome aboard. This is the show where I've covered every episode of the G.I. Joe Sunbow show and the DIC stuff, and we even did Extreme. And we've covered all the issues of the G.I. Joe Real American Hero comic book. Shows designed to watch along and or read along with. So pull out your books, hit play on your DVD player, or call up YouTube, and turn on an episode of Joe on Joe. That is literally what the show is designed for. We're not talking like new release stuff or, current events. That's the word I was looking for. We're not talking current events. But I will say, I got Chuckles in the mail this week, and he's awesome. And then I placed my my order today, my pre-order for Mutt and Metalhead. And if you guys listened to the DIC stuff, you know I am not a fan of Metalhead as a character. I think he was a albatross on an already sinking show, the DIC era. But that character, that toy looks great. And he does fall in that realm of crazy stupid that I do like about G.I. Joe now as an adult. As a kid, I didn't really like it that much. Which made, when they announced Raptor is going to be a member of the G.I. Joe Classified, that made my week. I'm so excited to get a Raptor Classified figure. I'm sure his wings will be some kind of, I guess, what is it, vinyl or plastic or whatever. But it would be amazing if they were actually feathered or cloth in some manner, I'm sure they'll be vinyl like they did when instead of doing Dusty's cloth helmet, he had a vinyl thing. So I'm sure that'll be the case. But man, when they announced Raptor last week, that was awesome. So thank you for joining aboard. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for saying hi on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Joe on Joe Pod. You've also sent me emails to joeandjoepod@gmail.com, and you've also helped support the show by joining our Patreon, patreon.com/joeandjoepod. You can donate $1 a month. You can donate $3 a month. You can donate whatever you want a month. But it helps keep all the old episodes available for all these newcomers to come in and listen to it. Been doing this for 8 years, and we've got over 350 episodes, I believe, that are available or close to that. So, if there's an old episode of the cartoon and you want to watch it with me in your ear, that's, first of all, that's your, that's your fault. I can't take responsibility for that. I am not responsible for that. However, if you do want to do that, you can. So, check that out. And, you also need to be checking out our great sponsors, which are the Movies in a Meal podcast. In the beginning of time, the smallest organism gained sentience and thought to itself, I really need a good meal. Then, a bunch of other stuff happened, and finally the Lumiere brothers started showing movies in France. This was all the inspiration that fellow broadcasters Brad, Keith, and Ben needed to combine these two primal needs into the Movies in a Meal podcast. The Movies in a Meal is one of the most casual and relaxing film talk podcasts you could ever listen to. These three friends enjoy a good meal together while talking all about the movies. And not just reviews. They do favorite lists, comparison discussions, genre talks, anything and everything that you can think of. They've even broken their solemn promise inherent in the name and branched out into TV talk. So I love the variety of films they bring to the table. They cover new releases, classics, cult films, often in one episode. It's really a delight to listen to, and it has something for every movie fan out there to enjoy. So if you're looking to grow your podcast library, if you eat meals, and if you've ever seen a movie, then you should give Ben, Keith, and Brad a listen and subscribe to the Movies in a Meal podcast. They've been a great sponsor to this show. I love the Movies in a Meal podcast, and I'd like all of you to love them too. I've said this before. I love podcasts about movies. It's Halloween month, and so a lot of these movie podcasts are doing Halloween stuff. I love it. I love a good movie podcast. I don't know what it is about the discussion of it, because they're usually long form discussions. A lot of times they're as long as sometimes the movie themselves. There's some that I listen to. So if you feel the same way, check out our great sponsors, the Movies in a Meal podcast. They're really great. They've been supporting the show for a long time now, and I appreciate them every time. Cool. There was also a tremendous video by Word Burglar that dropped last week, using G.I. Joe as the source. And I want to get Word Burglar on the show. I've been very busy in my personal life, so I haven't had a chance to reach out to him yet. But that's something that I want to do, because this video, we retweeted it on YouTube. Look up Word Burglar on YouTube, or on YouTube and Twitter. Really, we tweeted it on Twitter. You'll see what we're talking about. It's a really fun video. It's talking about G.I. Joe, but not using G.I. Joe. It's renaming them, talking about the action heroes of how we collected them when we were young. And it's brilliant and smart and funny, and it's everything that I love doing with this show. That same style of like, let's have fun with it, and let's make some laughs. So kudos to Word Burglar. It's really great. Check that out. Please do. So this week we're talking about Snake Hunt. This is the third adventure in this 1986 Battle Action Force annual. This is the big yellow cover one with Cobra Commander, Destro, Baroness, Duke, and Scarlet on the cover. Snake Hunt is a duotone, so it's red. It's printed in red and black and white. So I guess it's monotone would be just black and white. Yeah. So it's got the only coloring in this is red. I think it works well for it. I think it's what. So when I said like it's not my Snake Eyes, because it's Snake Eyes on a team of nameless. They're Action Force guys, but when I think G.I. Joe, there's really no nameless guys. There's green shirts, but they really don't factor in. Anyone that speaks is usually a character. Not in this case. It is Snake Eyes with a plane load of nameless, faceless G.I. Joe characters that actually look exactly the same. There are there's 4 of them that are drawn exactly the same facially, and then there's one guy who has a different nose. Strangely, speaking of drawing, every issue for this, we've not known who the artists were. And this is different, because on the second page, it is signed by a guy named John Cooper. So John Cooper drew this. And I will say this, except for the fact that those 3 or 4 dudes all actually visually look exactly the same. He did a great job. And some of this art style is reminiscent of some of these other stories in this book. So I have a feeling John Cooper did more of these. So John Cooper, kudos. I do like what you did here. And he does give Snake Eyes something that we never got in any other version of Snake Eyes that I've ever really seen drawn, is that he makes his visor clear. It's a see-through visor. It's Snake Eyes V1, so he's that commando look, and he does an admirable job of capturing that look. He's got the ringed collar, he's got the dual web gear suspenders and stuff. But whenever in all the photos, you can see Snake Eyes' eyes. You can see through his lens. You see the bridge of his nose. So he's drawing Snake Eyes without the sunglass lens in it, I guess. Which it strangely gives a different vibe to him. It makes it feel like he's a man trapped in that suit. And I think that's cool. I that's not a bad thing. I've never thought of Snake Eyes that way. I've just thought of Snake Eyes as a dude who knows what's up, and he knows he's just, whatever his look is, he knows it's intimidating. He knows he wants to cover his face, so on and so forth. But when you see it with a guy where you could see his face, he feels like a Man in the Iron Mask situation. Ironic because Destro's in here, but it's like he's trapped in the suit and he can't get out, and that adds this level of humanity to it, which I was not ready for when I read this. And it's a very subtle thing. I don't know if that was the intent. I don't know if it was just a mistranslation or just a translation of what John Cooper thought Snake Eyes looked like. Obviously, he had seen, well, by '86. Obviously, the Snake Eyes had been in the cartoon. He already had his, he had his V2 look out already. So I don't know exactly when this was drawn, but it's pretty interesting. If you could find this story, pick it up and see what I'm talking about. I'll probably snap some photos of this specifically to get this point across on our Instagram. So check that out. Anyway, we open with a big C-130 flying through the sky. An action force transport. It's heading home after the completion of another successful mission. But none of the troopers realized with an S, that they were flying to their doom. So there's a radar shot, and there was someone watching them, and they're on the radar. The target is still on course, sir. It'll be in range in 2 minutes. So if someone's watching them, they're the blip on the radar. Sorry for not being able to spit that out. Is it Destro? Well, if it's Cobra Commander, he doesn't have that multiple S. It says the fools are flying straight into my trap. So someone's excited about them. Then we get the shot of Snake Eyes in the cabin with all these other, I'll say Joes, but Action Force dudes, where they all look alike. And Snake Eyes is sitting there. It says, Snake Eyes is alone. This is one of the guys speaking. Snake Eyes is a loner. Even after the missions are over, he still distances himself from the rest of us. Another guy says he's a real silent type, never speaks a word, which is necessary storytelling wise. That's necessary for us. Every comic is someone's new first one. Not everyone has to know his full backstory. And at this point, we would have gotten at least the origin of Snake Eyes over in the States. Someone says, I don't know how he got into this outfit. We're all meant to be a team. He certainly doesn't fit. And I wouldn't let him hear you say that. If I were you, no one crosses Snake Eyes and lives. And that's the part where I really went, okay, alt reality, because, with the way Hama portrays it, Snake Eyes is the ultimate teammate. Snake Eyes is the guy you need on your team. He is the guy who literally sacrificed. The reason he wears the mask is because he was sacrificing it for his team. So these dudes are basically saying, just because he doesn't want to hang out with us, he doesn't belong on this team, which is a real boys club mentality. Let's be honest. It's a real hey, Jim, we're going to the strip club after work. Do you want to go with? No, thank you. Okay, well then you suck at work and we're going to ostracize you as you go about your work day. That's really what's happening here. So we go to the next page and someone in the cockpit says, alert, we're under attack. SAM missile heading straight towards us. And this is also where it gets weird too. They said we can't avoid it, but at least we can give the rest of the boys a chance to get clear. And in the back, Snake Eyes lowers the back ramp, right? And one of the dudes says Snake Eyes is indicating to us to jump. And he says, I'm not hanging around to find out why. And Snake Eyes is, he's got his parachute on. He's at the back door. Someone else says, move it, lads. Snake Eyes isn't going to leave us behind. And someone else goes, it's no good, Larry. I think it's too late. So Snake Eyes did leave them behind. They all blow up. And it says no one had escaped the destruction except for Snake Eyes. And he's in a parachute and he's parachuting down. So it's just so weird. From the start, they're like, I don't like that Snake Eyes guy. And he's like, hey guys, we should all jump. And then they go, well, he'd never leave us be. And they die. So that's great. By the way, I'm enjoying the rendering. It's very old school. It's kind of, it's got like classic Marvel, classic, like How to Draw Comics the Marvel way rendering, which I believe that was John Buscema, if that makes sense. So it's got this John Buscema feel. It was John or Sal Buscema. I forget who drew that, but it's got a John and or Sal Buscema feel. They're both similar at times. If you put them next to each other, I absolutely can tell the difference. but I'm seeing similarities here of this very Buscema style in the art. But then their faces, and this might be the same guy that I said I thought was kind of had this Carlos Ezquerra look for the faces. He's hitting that for all these Joe faces, but the body, the forms are very much like How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Which, hold on, and I'm back. It is John Buscema. So yeah, I got my Buscema's correct. So yeah, it's very much a Buscema vibe on the forms and stuff. It's a jungle story, so there's a lot of bushes and trees and hatching for backgrounds and things like that. There's overall, there's not a lot of like perspective, not a lot of establishing shots. Most of them are medium shots, so there's a lot of close-ups, a lot of shoulder high, waist high drawings of pretty much everybody. Actually, except till we get to the very last page, which we'll get to anyway. So Snake Eyes is parachuting down, and meanwhile, nearby there's it's Cobra, and it's Destro, and he says the Hercules, which is the C-130, has been destroyed as you ordered, Cobra Commander. So it is Cobra Commander, so he was the one that ordered it, but now we get the hissing. So he says, yes, Destro. He says, but the one called Snake Eyes has survived. Those are really amazing binoculars he has. Maybe he has like image magnification in his face mask. So we go to the next page. He says he must be tracked down and destroyed, or my whole plan will have failed. His whole plan was just to kill Snake Eyes. So Destro decides to personally lead the hunt for him. They're Destro, and this hat was the case too in one of the other ones he appeared. It's obvious he definitely has a chrome head for sure, but his face is drawn like anyone else's face. Like it's almost like he's painted chrome instead of in a beryllium mask, if that makes sense. There's just a lot of facial expression and no real effort to make it look like he's in any kind of rigid mask. He looks like just one of those Joes, but with a shiny chromey head. Anyway, Snake Eyes lands, is very silent. He hears a bird. He throws a knife to try to kill that bird, but it was only a bird. And also he missed too, which is weird. So he only does have a knife on him. He does not have any kind of gun or laser or anything on him. But the sound of the bird squawking away alerts the Cobras, and so they start to close in on him. And so Snake Eyes tensed, sensing danger. We go to the next page. This is where we get the confirmation that was his only weapon. His only weapon was the hunting knife. But that gave him an idea. Also, the other thing, this whole adventure, very much John Rambo. It is very Rambo First Blood. So Snake Eyes, in the time it takes for Cobra to catch up to him, and Predator, he shaves up some punji sticks or spears using that knife. He also makes a bow and arrow and arrows. So he whittles up spears, a bow and an arrow, and now he's ready to take on the enemy. And so now they're coming. So again, like Predator, where at the end Dutch had to get all the weaponry together. That's kind of what we're seeing here too. So as the Cobras get closer to him, Snake Eyes appears out of nowhere, uses his makeshift bow and arrow, and he shoots the Cobra in the back. Also, this Snake Eyes kill count is high in this. It does not go towards our Snake Eyes kill count because, as we said, this is not our Snake Eyes, but kills this guy, shoots him right in the spine. Cobra 4 out. So within minutes, the rest of the Cobras catch up to him. He's got an arrow in the back. Destro says, tell your men to spread out and continue the search in pairs. I can't afford to lose any more troopers. That just means you're going to lose them by 2. And they're all named different numbers. So that was Cobra 4. So now we got Cobra 6 and Cobra 7. They're about to die. Cobra 6 gets knifed in the back. Snake Eyes sneaks up on him from behind out of the bushes. And then Cobra 7 gets an arrow in the front of the chest. The guy has a chance to see him and scream his name and shoots into the sky. So Snake Eyes pulling a little Storm Shadow duty here too. So now the other 2 Cobras, whose named are 9 and 10, they also get arrows in the face on the next panel. What's neat is because it's this duotone printing, it's just the red. They're only hitting these. They're using the red as you would spot blacks, but then they're also spotting blacks on the page too, and that has a really neat almost 3D effect. And it really is. If there were blue on this page, you literally could have it be an offset 3D process. So in places where you would, like on Snake Eyes' body, where you would hatch it and then do a spot some blacks on his uniform to make it dark and whatever, they're hatching it and then they're using the red ink, like this red ink wash over it. It gives the whole thing a very much like a pen and ink style feel to it, and literally like pen and ink, not like quill pen, like an actual, you took like a red pen you'd use for work, black pen you'd use for work, and you drew this all, and you use the red to color it in. It's neat. And then because of all the backgrounds are all bushes and trees and stuff, that just adds to this hatching effect. So in each panel they're making choices to choose where to apply that red and where to apply the bushes. It's not just like if you were doing a full coloring job, you would have to color the water and you'd have to color the land a certain color and the sky would be a certain color and so on. This is spotting those reds to make the most of the page. And when you get to the some of the, I guess, hard real objects like their belts are full red, and then a lot of the shading is like pink, so it's a lighter tone. So they're using two tones of the same ink, and so that gives the whole effect a real pop to it. So Snake Eyes' collar will be deep red, but then all the highlights on his uniform would be this light pink look. So very solid, nice. I like it. We've now killed 5 people. So we've killed Cobra 4, 6, 7, 9, and 10. So yeah, Snake Eyes has killed 5 people. And then Destro says, it's finally time we flushed our friend out of hiding. It's about time. So they use a flare, and this time, though, it's to light the grass on fire. So all that hatching we were talking about gets lit on fire. And this is where it first popped in my head of, very Predator-esque. Snake Eyes has to jump in the water to avoid the fire. Remember when Dutch had to do that to avoid some of the Predator stuff. I think Rambo jumped in the water, too, to avoid some stuff. So Snake Eyes is now hiding in the reeds. And we've got Cobra, do we have 5 and 8 now getting murdered. He pops out of the reed, throws that knife, gets the guy in the chest, and then he throws one of those spears, and he spears the other Cobra right in the spine. That's 7 men he's murdered. And it's now Destro and Cobra 3. I dig that they were naming all of these. How they would all keep track of who's who and who's what with all these masks on, I don't know. That's a problem for them to deal with. But I don't know how I would do it. So now, as Destro's literally talking to Cobra 3. Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. He thought it was him. Destro thought it was him, this Cobra next to him, and Cobra 3. And then they turned around and Cobra 3 already has an arrow in his chest. And then the other the Cobra officer is the one who gets another arrow in the chest. So Snake Eyes just disposing people with arrows through the heart. So that's 9 Cobras. No, 10 Cobras. Because it was a Cobra 10. Yeah. Snake Eyes killed everyone. Destro here. Yeah, he definitely looks like a cranky old 70s like neighbor in this drawing. It's very not metallic. He yells Snake Eyes. So Snake Eyes and Destro are going to go at it. I shall kill you myself and take your head back as a trophy to show Cobra Commander. That's what we're dealing with here. He's shooting at Snake Eyes. He can't reach him. Snake Eyes punches him in the face, and he throws him in the ever-present threat of the 1980s, quicksand. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest danger to our youth, quicksand. Remember that? Look out for it. Destro ends up in quicksand, and Snake Eyes leaves him to die. Destro's screaming, "Don't go, save me, come back," and he sinks into the quicksand. Snake Eyes is off on his own. But then hours later, which is insane, Destro survived under quicksand hours later, and Cobra Commander has found him, and Destro says, "It is fortunate that I am more machine than man," which is wild. I don't know, how is he more machine than man? Is that that must be an Action Force thing, obviously. I don't know what that means. Again, this is, you know, we're dealing with we're coming in late to a lot of this Action Force stuff. How is he a machine? He obviously can survive underwater for literal hours. He says anyone else would have died down there. And then Cobra Commander is kicking during. This is one of the few full panel shots, and the proportions are really off to fit Cobra Commander's leg kicking in this panel. I wish they hadn't done it. I wish they had figured out a different way because it looks real silly. But he says, calls him a fool. You allowed Snake Eyes to escape. Perhaps it would have been better if you had sunk to your doom. So yeah, I mean, it's Snake Eyes as John Rambo, and that's it, everybody. It is Snake Eyes as John Rambo. And I like it. I want more of that. It does, again, highlight the inherent problems with having your narrator or your main character be silent in a comic book. There's only so much you can do without having to rely a ton on other people telling you what's happening. But it was great. It was a lot of fun. I'm always here for a good Snake Eyes adventure. The rest of this annual is rounded out with more war stories, as we've discussed earlier. It's got some more... blueprints, G.I. Joe blueprints. They've got Zartan's Swamp Skier. They have something called Silent Attack, which is, to my knowledge, not an American G.I. Joe product. It looks a little bit like it would have been. It's a canoe, like a safety canoe. It's got Recondo with it, and by the way, in this version, Recondo's from Melbourne, Australia. But it's got a canoe kind of like Stalker's canoe. But it's not. It's a different looking canoe. So they must have, I bet you they repurposed this from some other toy line. It does not look like anything I've seen for the Joes. Then they've got a Fang helicopter. And in the Cobra logo, check out the Cobra logo for it. They use a different one. They use like the word Cobra in like a circle and then an actual like snake drawn coiling around that word. It's pretty neat. Then they've got for the flying submarine, which is the shark, but they don't call it the shark. Then we've got the Cobra Claw, which was in the last adventure. And there you go. I mean, there's just more and more Army Adventures. So if you like Army Adventures, this is a nice little book for it. And if you love the G.I. Joe, this is a great little, alt universe take on it. So I really dig it. I'm glad you guys are coming along. I got more Action Force here, so we're going to do some more Action Force next week. I'm not exactly sure which one. I did order one off eBay, another one that I don't have yet, but if that doesn't arrive soon, I've got some of the later ones. So I'll try to do the older ones first and then hit the later ones, but we'll see if that shows up in time for next week's episode. So please come back next week and we'll get more Action Force action. And now you know more about Action Force, and Joeing is half the battle.